And we're live on episode 5 of Know the Game podcast. For those of you who may be joining with us for the first time, this is really just a podcast that kind of centers around our personal fantasy league. It's very competitive, and we just love to kind of dive into our fantasy matchups. We'll talk about what happened the previous week. We'll also talk about what happened in some of the NFL games. We'll go over injuries. We'll talk about the upcoming matchups. So a lot to dive into today. So what do you want to start off with, Jeff?
So I was thinking just kind of starting in the beginning, covering some of the week 4 results that we had. And as you can see, we've got them displayed here at the top. So you can go through and see who got the best of who, and Cameron wastes no time in letting us know that he took down the only undefeated team remaining this past week.
Yep. Read it and week, guys. I mean, I was wrong in my prediction. I did not bet on myself, which, I guess I should be a little bit more confident in my team this upcoming week, but didn't expect to beat a undefeated Kevin, to be quite honest with you. But you can see a couple of his receivers had a tough game. Tight end had a tough game. San Francisco, even though they got a really solid win against Arizona, still only had a 9-point showing.
Yeah, that's kind of the results you can expect when, you don't force turnovers, you don't record any sacks. It's just kind of one of those bland games. Of course, they'll take a near 20-point win every week. But in terms of fantasy, just not what you would have hoped for against a Cardinals squad that's a little under.
Look what happened right here, Jeff, because it kind of goes hand in hand with your point. The Browns got absolutely obliterated by Baltimore, 3-28, but I still had 24 fantasy points from them because they had 9 tackles for a loss, 6 3-and-outs, and allowed between 200 and 300 yards.
Okay, yeah, that is crazy that they lost by 25 and had that kind of output.
Yep. I mean, if anybody's been watching the Cleveland Browns, you've got Myles Garrett going absolutely crazy this year. So, they're going to come out with a lot of defensive points. It's good to have somebody like them right now.
Yeah, and then, of course, like you mentioned, I know Kevin had some weak spots this week, but, first week having Kamara back, he catches 13 passes for only 33 yards.
But, hey, 13 catches is 13 points in a PPR league, so you'll take it every time if you're Kevin, and it was kind of risky to put him in the lineup going back into it his first week coming back, but it paid off for him pretty well. And look at his bench.
So. Kevin's got quite the running back room that a lot of us would love to have.
100%. Pollard, Kamara, Derrick Henry, and then, A-Chain is having a phenomenal year so far. Nobody really expected it, but
nope. Yeah. I mean, gosh, you'd think eventually he's going to have a slow week, but in the past 2 weeks, he has 75 points in our fantasy league.
Unbelievable. Yeah, I was glad to see Isaiah Pacheco finally get it going. He has had a really slow start to the year, so this was a really good sign for me. DJ Moore had a really solid week. Brandon Ayuk coming back from a pretty lackluster week 3, so I felt pretty good about this past week.
Yeah, is 152 the highest amount of points you've put up so far this year?
I think it might be. But something that you mentioned right before this podcast started was the biggest margin of victory or the biggest blowout of the week. I've been featured in it 4 weeks in a row, but 2 on the good side and 2 on the bad side of it. So that's kind of funny.
Yeah, double-edged sword. Sometimes you found yourself on both ends of that twice. Hopefully you're on the wrong end of it this week.
Yeah, which I think that kind of wraps it up on that particular matchup, and we'll go into yours, Jeff. What happened, man?
Olave had 1 catch. That was a huge downer. Overall, my team didn't play that bad. And, I know Burleson had Godwin get 21, but, Jefferson had 22. Russell Wilson had a pretty solid outing, but, kind of hurt my feelings, but I was excited for how Dallas played. It's just unfortunate that I had to play them in fantasy this week.
Gosh, man. I mean,
Because that is the difference in our matchup.
They're still remaining the number one fantasy player, if you will, in terms of fantasy points. That's crazy that it's a defense that's doing that.
I wish you would give me a heads up about Seattle. They would have won me the game this week.
Look, we've got a defense that's kind of coming together and picking up steam as the season's going along. Our first round pick is paying off for us. You saw the 97-yard pick six he took to the crib. We had a 10.5 or 11 sacks on the game.
Yeah. I think it was the most sacks in a game since, what they say, 1966, roughly? I'm not sure.
It's been 60 between 66 ago. And 69, something like that.
Something crazy.
Yeah. But, hey, I don't see this going in a better direction for you this upcoming week, Jeff. You know, you've got me. I don't know if that's going to work out too well for you.
I feel just fine, thank you.
Well, anything else that you want to touch on in this particular matchup? Players that surprised you?
Nope.
Okay.
No.
All right.
Get it off
we're going to move on. And Jeff is putting the past in the past, which brings us to Brules and Dylan.
And, you know, if you've noticed so far, there's been a theme, like just not a whole lot of close games. I think we had, maybe 2 games within single digits?
Single digits, yep.
Not even 2, just 1, I believe. Because I think DJ ended up besting Parson by double digits. But, yeah, just one of those weeks where whoever came out on top managed to do so in a big-time fashion. So, same thing here, skunk over Brules. And one thing I want to point out, look at the records and then look where they are in the standings. Both 2-2. One sits at 3rd, one sits at 11th.
With the same record.
That is insane.
That is pretty crazy. I mean, that's more than half of our league sitting at 2-2. That's absolutely wild. But it could have went either way. Look at everybody that's hurt on his bench right now. I mean, you start the year off in Brules' position, where, you know, those of you who haven't been keeping up with our podcast, Adam Brules got 4 first-round picks in our league, and he went with Barkley, he went with Eckler, he has Travis Kelce on his team, has Lamar Jackson. I mean, he has some really great players, and probably the pickup of the waiver this year, Puka Nacua, in his flex. So he's got a really well put together team. But I mean, Eckler on the bench, Barkley on the bench, Cooper Kupp IR. That stinks.
That I just cannot get over. It seems, despite having those, 4 first-round picks, just you can't. I don't think he's had all 4 of those guys in his lineup one time this year, because Cooper Kupp started the year on IR. So yeah, we'll see. He's slated to come back either this week or the next week, so maybe he'll get a fully healthy roster, and that would be bad news for everybody else in our league.
Yes, it would. A healthy roster for Brules is trouble for everyone. I would be really mad if I'm in his position. I mean, you draft what looks like the dream lineup for most fantasy managers, and you can't keep any of them healthy. But you got to commend him. He's got some pretty good depth, and he's had some really good plug-and-play kind of people that he can add. And then
you have to imagine that he's happy to be 2-2, considering all that he has had to go through so far.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm feeling good. I mean, anybody that's sitting at 2-2 right now, you're feeling like you're in a pretty good position. Even though I'm at the bottom of my division, the person that's ahead of me, I beat them. So I got that edge on them. But I think we'll kind of go on to our next matchup here. So good for Dylan getting the win. Then we've got the one that I will let you take away, Jeff. I know you are looking forward to this one.
So, and again, this isn't, some sort of beef with anybody. I love Jonas as much as they were, I love all you guys the same. You're all equal to me. But earlier before this weekend, it was talked about when the last time Jonas won a fantasy matchup. So I decided to do a little digging on this, and turns out, Jonas, you have went 323 days since your last fantasy win in our league. So You're almost there. If you can just maybe go a few more weeks, you can turn a calendar year since your last win.
Man, that is tough.
Just wanted to drop that bomb out there, just because who would have? I mean, I have no words. I cannot believe it.
And I don't either. I don't want to make him feel any worse than he probably already feels with having the team that he has and just not having the best luck.
Yeah, his team is solid. Kirk Cousins has been solid. I know he only had 9 this week, but that's kind of the first dud week. And then A.J. Brown showed up.
So listen to this. I was doing some kind of digging before the game. He's got Kyle Pitts starting at his tight end. You know who the leading receiver for Atlanta was on this Sunday morning game in London?
Now, I'm going to take a shot in the dark because I didn't see the entire stat line, but wasn't it Jonnu Smith?
Their other tight end.
Backup tight end? Oh my gosh, it just doesn't get much worse.
6 catches for 95 yards, no touchdowns, but that's the game that you're hoping out of a Kyle Pitts. I mean, what is Atlanta doing with Pitts? At this point, shouldn't they just ship him off for picks or some kind of trade leverage? I don't know.
I know there have been teams reaching out to Atlanta, checking on his, trade status, and Atlanta is adamant that they are not moving him, but you're not getting him involved on the field. So what do you do? A-Chain scored more touchdowns 2 weeks ago in one game than Pitts has in his entire career. So I don't know what Atlanta's plan is for him, but obviously whatever plan they have, he is not included.
Yeah, that's very clear. I mean, but looking at Jonas's players, he has the potential to string together some wins. So, we've, I think, kicked Jonas while he's down enough. I'm going to give him a little bit of hope right here. You can do this. You can string together some wins. You've got A.J. Brown, Michael Pittman. When is Anthony Richardson slated to come back from his situation?
If I'm not mistaken, he played last week.
He did.
The Rams.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Robbie. I thought he was back in the lineup.
And that bodes well for Michael Pittman. Obviously, he had a down week, but he's their number one guy. He's going to get his looks. Dameon Pierce had an increased workload this past week. He got more carries. 11 points isn't a bad finish. It's not great.
So, Cameron, let me get your take on this. So, this isn't the first time we've seen Jonas and his team name with a player that he's frustrated with, and he refers to them as a bum.
Mm-hmm.
He traded Swift, and Swift has been killing it since the trade. So, do you see a similar path? Maybe he trades Pittman, and Pittman starts producing more, or do you just think maybe he learned his lesson?
I think at this point, Jonas is going to sit on the team that he has unless somebody sends him a trade that he just can't deny or can't turn down at this point. Yeah. After getting kind of burned by that Swift trade, I would be hesitant to kind of do anything else. I know one mistake that I had made is kind of getting rid of players that didn't really show any value in week one, and it's just too early to pull the trigger on certain players like that.
And, one thing I did want to mention is that we have spent a lot of time on Jones. I will commend Trey. I think he's got a really great 1-2 punch at receiver and Diggs and St. Brown. And another pickup of the year, in my opinion, is Kyron Williams.
Oh, absolutely. Right there. And guess what? They're both on the same team.
Yeah. I mean, the Rams have done a fantastic job of finding these diamonds in the rough. And they are going out as if they are 3, 4, 5-year veterans and playing like they've been in the league for years.
Yeah. No, and you're right. Trey's put together a solid team. I think Jordan Love has been a really solid quarterback this first, few weeks of the season. They haven't won all of their games, but he's actually, I think, surprised people in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree.
James Conner at his flex, and he has some depth. I mean, he's got Tyler Lockett.
Fields finally. I mean, look at this. He got Fields and Richardson. So if Fields continues and Richardson continues, maybe plug one of those guys in.
Yep. But good win for Trey and Jonas. Keep your head up. There's another week ahead of us, and you could string together some wins.
Yep.
Let's see who Who's next up? This is the Sloman and Robbie matchup.
Yeah, Robbie, he came out. Oh boy, how could we forget Thursday night? Starting David Montgomery, all the questions surrounding his health, and he goes out and scores 3 touchdowns.
32 carries. And for somebody that maybe has Jahmyr Gibbs on your team, are you panicking, or do you think that the work that he's going to get in the receiving game is going to be enough to kind of offset that? He had 5 targets out of the backfield.
I know, but with it being week 4, you really would have thought that Detroit was ready to really unleash him. So I'm leaning towards panicking.
Yeah. And we've actually, one of our live callers, we've got Robbie on. Robbie, how do you feel about your matchup?
Well, I do want to say I don't appreciate the Jonas stat you brought up, since I play him next week.
Didn't realize that.
That's for sure. I thought overall the matchup, I thought Loman got screwed over by the Niners, listing Debo as active, and then he doesn't even get targeted, basically.
Yeah.
Might as well just rested him. But yeah, there was a report early Thursday morning that Montgomery was out, so I thought not to play him. But then they came back and the guy corrected it and said he was going to play. So I played him because I thought B. Rob was going to have a tough time with the field.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I remember that same report, Robbie. It came out Thursday morning that he'd be out, and then a few hours later they corrected it and decided that he would play. So I'm not quite sure what happened, but yeah, ballsy move on your part, and it paid off big time. I think that really led you to getting the big, W that you got this week.
I mean, yeah, in my eyes, that's your impact player for the week. And from Sloman's side of things, even if he plugs in like a Jalen Warren or a Michael Thomas to replace one of these people in his lineup, he still does not have enough to get it done this week.
Wouldn't have changed anything.
Yeah. So just a solid victory from Mr. Robbie, and thanks for being on the call tonight.
And one quick thing, Robbie, I am sorry about that stat. The only thing I would say is that I had to make sure that I didn't play Jonas this week. So as soon as I got that confirmation, I thought I'm throwing this stat out there.
Yeah, and I'm catching Jonas next week with Herbert on a bye, so I'm kind of dreading.
Oh, wow. Well, maybe you can talk to Parson. I'm sure he'd be interested in dealing Burrow. I mean, I don't know what's going on with him.
Wow. Or you've got Trey with 3 quarterbacks, so maybe somebody true. You could go after.
Yeah, if you don't like anybody on the waiver wire, just, maybe Trey's interested.
So last matchup of the previous week, you had DJ and Parson. DJ ended up getting the win. Both of them ending up at 2-2.
Yep, that's just the common theme in the league right now. From number 3 to number 11, those teams are 2-2. We only have 2 teams that are 3-1, and of course the one team that is 0-4. Just tremendous balance in the league thus far. Just ultra competitive on all aspects, and this is just another example of that. Lowest scoring matchup of this week, but DJ squeaked it out, and he can. I'm not sure how he was feeling, but I know he got a breath of relief or a sigh of relief from Burrow only getting 5.5.
Yeah. Did you see the video that came out of Jamar Chase getting interviewed after the game?
So, according to sources, he is always open.
That's what he says. You think there's a little bit of beef going on right there? Is that something that maybe he's just frustrated in the moment, and they'll make up, and it'll be fine next week?
Yeah, you know how it can be. They played in college together. They're obviously very close teammates, and this is just what happens when things aren't clicking. And there's just, it's like brothers fighting, but they'll turn it around. It's early in the season, plenty of time to adjust. And I do wonder if Burrow's injury is like lingering on him, because I just can't find a reason why the performances have been so, not like them.
Yeah. He couldn't have bounced back at 100% from that. So I think you're right. There's got to be some lingering issues with his previous injury. Not the start that Cincinnati fans were hoping for, obviously, but I don't see that continuing. I think that they, once Joe's back to 100%, they'll hit their stride, and we'll see them kind of head in a positive direction. But tough loss for Parson, and DJ, catches a win on a lackluster performance from Joe and from TJ Hawkinson, who's had a great starting to the year.
I mean, Hawkinson was sort of a dud this week. Mike Evans came back down to earth. Just one of those rough weeks for Parsons' team. And DJ kind of benefits from that. He didn't have the greatest output either, but he catches Parson at the right time, and he was able to find a way to pull this one out.
Yep. Look at this performance from Khalil Herbert this past week.
Yeah, we kind of expected more of these kind of games from Herbert. Looked good in preseason, and Bears offense overall, I think a lot of people had more expectations. But despite the loss, you got a lot of offense out of Chicago this past weekend.
So, are we thinking that Chicago's tanking for number 1 and number 2 picks? Are they going to end up with Caleb and Marvin Harrison?
Boy, wouldn't that be something if they? That would have to be a first.
I don't think that fixes the problem for Chicago. There's something missing. Like, it's got to be offensive line. It's got to be defensive pieces, too, because...
Shoot, it could be general management. I don't know.
Yeah. They've got some, weapons at receiver, I think, and DJ Moore and Darnell Mooney. Obviously, really good route runner, very speedy. Cole Kmet at tight end's not bad either.
He's been a ghost this year.
Yeah. So, I don't know. We'll see how that continues for Chicago.
Yeah, it's just week 4. I know that the odds of making playoffs drop dramatically starting the year 0-4, but you just never know how the rest of the division will shake out. So you just kind of hope that teams don't completely fold up shop this early in the year.
Well, before we dive into our next week matchups, I was going to pull up the waiver wire and just kind of show everybody what's available in our league. This is a 12-man league, super competitive, but just wanting to show everybody kind of what's left on the board because it's not a lot.
Yeah, if you are in need, well, there's some solid quarterbacks out there. But as you get into the skill positions, running back and receiver really do dry up. I don't know if you'll see any of the big transactions that we've had in the past few weeks for this week, but you never know. Someone might be in a bye-week crunch and really, really need someone and have the money to do it. So we'll see. Any names jump out to you this week?
I mean, Shaheed's on there, and it looked like somebody had enough depth to, be confident to drop him off. If you're really desperate for a flex player and you don't have people that are performing for you, maybe picking him up. Also, this guy right here had a good showing. Michael Wilson, I believe, for the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, he's been pretty solid. And then the player that you drafted and dropped has been solid right underneath him.
Cole Kmet. So, not really. He just had an outstanding performance last week, and the first 3 games of the year were not really all that great.
Yeah, that's fair.
But he had a solid last week. I was just ready to move on from him. I was very impatient and ended up plugging in Hunter Henry. There was a running back that I saw that a lot of people are adding to their lineup, and I want to see if I can find him. McLaughlin.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that as a Javonte Williams owner?
I mean, not great. Javonte had an early exit in the Bears game, had an injury, shouldn't miss too much time, if any at all. But I'll be honest, I was kind of hoping for a little bit more from him. I think your decision to drop him hasn't been the absolute worst decision. He really is on my roster at this point as a plug-in bye-week kind of running back at the moment.
Yeah.
I just don't feel comfortable starting him until, I see a decent outing. He's just kind of there to, in case of emergency.
Yep. And the last thing that I'll show you guys is kind of defensive pickups for the week. If anybody's looking, for a solid matchup, you've got Detroit playing versus the Panthers. I feel like this one is, Detroit looks like they're on a mission. They're looking really good to start the year. They have a solid defense, solid offense. I mean, I think they're really putting it together. And Dan Campbell is that motivating factor.
Yep. In my opinion, Detroit should win this week. Carolina, one of the teams that have yet to find a win also. I would expect Detroit to roll in this one. So Detroit may be a really solid option at defense if you're needing them this week.
Yep, I would expect so. And you see any other matchups that stick out to you, Jeff?
If you can find a defense that's playing the Giants, which I think is Miami, I would probably play whoever is going against the Giants right now.
Yep, that's Miami playing in New York, and it looks like it's going to be some rain involved. So I think we all saw what happened the last time that occurred. It's not great.
Yeah. And if I can get a defense that plays them, I'm all for it. So if you're needing a defense, Detroit, Miami, I know Jacksonville had a solid outing last week. Of course, the week that I plugged them in, they played terrible. So I'm done with it.
Oh man, that's going to happen sometimes. You can't win them all, but what that does show, Jeff, I think, to speak in your favor, is that you're an active fantasy manager and you're at least trying to put your team in the best position to win. And that's all you can do, is be active and try to make the best choices for your team based on matchups, or could be just be a gut feeling.
Yeah, that's just how it rolls sometimes, Jonas.
Yep. Well, that kind of rolls us into our Week 5 matchups, and I'll start from the opposite end, going up this time.
Any reason why you're doing that?
No reason at all.
Making sure that you have no motives behind that decision.
Hey, no motives at all. But what do you think about this matchup right here? You got DJ playing Kevin. This is a 2-2 team against the number 1 team in our league right now.
Yeah, should be a really fun matchup. I'll be curious to see what DJ ends up deciding to do at tight end. Freiermuth exited the game Sunday with an injury as well. So he'll be needing a tight end, as Everett, his backup, is on a bye. So look for maybe DJ could be the manager who goes out and gets Kmet. We'll see.
Could be. I mean, if from the tight ends that I saw left on the board, that's who I'm going after. So it's very possible that you see Cole Kmet come off of the free agent list after tonight.
DJ's kind of in the middle of the pack in terms of the waiver order. He is 6th. So unless someone is just dying to get a tight end that's in front of him, he should be able to get who he wants.
Man, wouldn't it be funny if somebody just threw like the rest of their waiver money on Kmet just to get under his skin?
When did you spend $2?
We're not going to talk about it.
What? Okay.
It was on a player that I got. I'll say that much. I think it was on like Kendrick Bourne or somebody like that. We can go through league transactions, but I only had like $5.
I was curious because I've got the budget pulled up, and the running jokes that you've had $4, and I saw the 2, and I'm like, what did you do?
I spent some money. Oh man. Well, yeah, that's obviously a good point to bring up, Jeff. He's got a hole in his tight end right now and still projected to beat Kevin. Why is that?
So it looks like Kevin's dealing with some bye week issues. Amari Cooper's
this
on the
right
bye.
here, the receiver matchup.
And that might get adjusted later this week, but at the moment, and as we go through these matchups, you'll notice that there are some lower totals this week. But just despite DJ having one player, injured with a projected score of 0, he is projected to win, and I don't think a lot of that goes, towards Tyreek and Bijan.
Yep, definitely. And they both played great. If you're Kevin right here, I'm almost putting in Romeo Doubs. Is that how you pronounce his name? Is it Doubs? Dobbs?
I think it's Dobbs.
Dobbs? Yeah, that one always catches me.
Yeah, me too.
But might look at replacing him with one of these guys. He had 13 targets this past week, so Jordan Love is really looking his way.
Yeah, 3 out of the 4 games this year, Dobbs has had double-digit fantasy points, so he's worth a plug-in if you're Kevin. You got Cooper on a bye and you need a guy. I would consider Dobbs over Zay Flowers for now.
Are you keeping Derek on the bench? Is there a matchup you don't really like?
Yeah, so as we talked about, Kevin's running back room is probably the most solid in the league, especially with the addition of A-Chain. For me, personally, this is going to be a matchup thing every week. I'm plugging in the guys who have the most favorable matchups, even if it means, benching Pollard one week or he benched Derrick Henry this past week. You've got 4 guys that can get it done for you, and I think it's matchup based.
Yep. So in this case, who has the worst matchup? Is it Tony going against the 49ers defensive front?
That's why I mentioned I would bench Pollard given the options that he has.
Yep. And starting Derrick Henry playing at Indianapolis. And aren't they inside a dome?
Yep. There'll be no weather concerns. So, nothing to worry about. Not to say that there's any weather concerns in San Fran either. It's just 49ers defense much better, in my opinion, than the Colts.
Yeah. Bosa, Hargrave, they got some dogs up front, man. They're looking really
they're
good
just
this
tough
year.
to run through.
I would agree with that. So in this week's matchup, who are you giving the win? Is it going DJ or are you going Kevin?
Oh, it's so tough because I get suckered into these projections. I think I'm going to roll with... Gosh. Just give me Kevin.
Yeah. And that's who I'm going with. I think there's going to be too many questions surrounding his tight end position. Even if he picks up Cole Kmet, I'm somebody that dropped him after week 1. Doesn't mean that I was necessarily right. He could have a great week 5. Maybe week 4 was just the start of something really great for Cole Kmet. And we're just assuming that he picks him up. Somebody could go after him.
Yeah, and I lean Kevin here because there's 3 players in DJ's starting lineup that I just think is just weighing him down right now, and it's Gibbs, Harris, and Freiermuth. I know he's hurt, but Gibbs and Harris you expected a lot more of this year so far.
Agreed. I think you can bank on Tyreek and Bijan 100%. Great players to have, but you cannot have 2 players carry your team in a competitive league like this one. And Kevin just has a little bit more of a complete roster in my eyes. Yeah, so I think Kevin gets the win this week.
Yeah, I'm thinking so. I think Kevin moves to 4-1.
Which would put DJ at 2-3 if our prediction is correct.
Yeah, I think there'll be a lot of 2 and 3 teams after this week.
So that will move us on to our next matchup, which is going to be Dylan and Dylan, the battle of the Dylans.
Who's the better Dylan?
We're going to find out this week.
I like both of these rosters. Both of them each have, a Tampa Bay Buck. So Burleson's going to be without Godwin, Skunk without Rachaad White. Other than that, I don't really see any big bye week issues here because, we are in that point of the season now where bye weeks are going to come into play.
Absolutely.
Let's see.
To be fair, Skunk hasn't really been playing Rachaad White much of the year anyway, so I've actually sent him several trades to try to pick up Rachaad White, but it hasn't panned out just yet.
Yeah, I think I sent one to Skunk earlier this year for him, but like you said, he's kind of he may plug him in this week, he may not kind of player for Skunk, so that's why I reached out because I think 2 weeks so far he's left him on his bench.
Yeah, and maybe he's just like some managers, they want to hang on to the depth that they have, for fantasy bye weeks or whatever it might be. But this matchup could go either way. Obviously, the projections are in London Silly Nanny's favor over RIP Chris.
Speaking of which, is that him in here?
I believe it is. Chris P. Bacon. I'm not sure.
I'm not too sure myself, but with Burleson has maintained that team name for years, so it'd be interesting if Chris was actually in here right now.
And I actually misspoke on one of my previous statements. I thought Kevin was leading the league. It's actually Burleson in first place right now.
Yeah, I think when it comes to that, it gives the first place to the most points scored right now. Burleson is the only one in the 600s for the year.
Dude, he's put up points, like hella points every week so far this season. But he's got big time players. I mean, Tua can have a 40, 50-point game. Devontae Adams has showed it this year. Jalen Waddle, if he can play healthy, is going to be awesome. If the weather is right in New York, that could be a big game for them passing wise. But if not, we could see Jalen Waddle possibly coming away with some lower point totals.
Well, his MVP this year is the Dallas defense.
This right here is winning him games right here.
It has won him 2 games this year.
Was it 58 points in week 1, and then he just had 40 or 41 the last week?
Yep. So just in those 2 games, it was the difference.
90 points between 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's insane. And he still has Godwin, Cortland Sutton, Jameson Williams.
Yeah,
he'll be coming back this week.
He is officially back. The NFL decided that gambling on other sports other than football, they reduced that sentence and allowed him to return this week. So that is just another receiver. He is loaded at that position.
Man. And he could come back and show out. They have Amon-Ra, and he's going to get double-digit targets every week. But man, that could prove to be a really good player for him.
Yeah, I am now worried about my Sam Laporta.
Yeah, it's going to take some targets. It's
going to be another receiver that takes targets away. So
Gibbs had as many targets as Jahmyr Gibbs did out of the backfield.
Yeah, that's true. I just cannot believe that they are not letting him loose. Gibbs is one of the most dynamic rookies. I mean, we saw it all last year at Alabama. I would be ready to just let him fly.
I would be too. But, I mean, hey, if your vet, David Montgomery, scoring 3 times with 32 carries, I mean, do what's working.
It's hard to not get him involved when he is being as effective as he has.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like the games you just got to go with who has that rhythm. And maybe David just had the rhythm that game, and they just go with whoever's feeling it.
Yeah, just go with the hot hand.
Yeah, essentially. Well, in this matchup, who are you going with, Jeff?
Gosh, if Skunk can continue to get the work from McCaffrey that he's getting, it's so tough because Nico Collins has been a sneaky, just a huge. I don't know if Skunk drafted him or not.
I think that he did.
He did? Okay.
I think that he did.
Boy, what a draft pick by Skunk. Nico Collins has really balled out so far this year, and Garrett Wilson, McCaffrey, Mostert has been unbelievable.
Yep.
But I will say, I think I'm going to lean Burleson again this week. I'd love the, Tua and Devontae and Dallas defense. I know they got a tougher test this week, but the Dallas defense is serious. Swift has looked good. I think Burleson finds a way to sneak by Skunk this week.
Yeah, this is a hard one.
It is tough.
I feel like the smart thing to do would be to pick Burleson in this matchup. But my gut's kind of telling me that Skunk's going to come away with a win. And he's let me down in previous weeks. I think it was the matchup with Sloman. He ended up coming away with a loss against Sloman. But I feel good about this particular matchup. If he can have his tight end situation figured out by this upcoming week, I think we can see Skunk come away with a win. I mean, like you said, Nico's having a great start. Maybe Zach Wilson's just now starting to find it, and they're playing against a team where he can potentially have a good showing. Denver hasn't been phenomenal this year by any stretch of the imagination.
Terrible.
They've been really bad. Christian Watson, he's finally back in their lineup, and he's normally their number one guy. So we could see him get targeted a lot in what I would assume to be a pass-heavy game against the Raiders.
I imagine so.
Which is kind of concerning for me because I have Aaron Jones, and he had a very poor performance this past week. The running game in general just kind of stunk for Green Bay.
Yeah, and, they got down 24-3 right out at the gate, it felt like, so they abandoned the run pretty quick.
Yeah. That's going to happen in those games. You get behind that fast, it's going to be a pass-heavy game.
Yeah, and, still nursing a hamstring, so maybe this week he'll be back to full strength.
All right, so we split on our picks there. We'll see how that plays out this upcoming week. Who we got next? Keeps doing this thing where it goes back to the previous week.
It always wants to go back to the previous week. Well, as Robbie alluded to, he's got Jonas this week.
What are we thinking? Does Jonas get it done this week against 2-2 Robbie, who looks pretty good right now?
Yeah, Robbie had an impressive outing last week, and I know he's got Herbert on a bye, but Matthew Stafford's not a bad plug-and-play, to fill a void. So that's not bad. I like his roster from top to bottom. I don't know why Mark Andrews is projected single digits. That's odd. He scored twice last week, did he not?
Yeah, maybe they're just playing on the safe side of things, but I think that's low-balling what Mark's going to get. Brian Robinson has played phenomenal. David Andrews, 32 carries this past week. Ramondre Stevenson is that lead back in New England. They're really struggling right now, so if you see them continue to kind of struggle through the air, they'll run the ball a lot. I know Zeke will kind of split carries a little bit, but Ramondre is going to get work in the passing game too, and that I had him last year, and that's something that I could always rely on.
Oh, yeah. Ramondre was solid for me in the weeks that I initially had him. But, I just saw an opportunity, so I had to take Olave while I could get him. I know he had a bad week last week, but hopefully that's just an outlier.
Yeah. You got his receivers are awesome. CeeDee Lamb and Christian Kirk have had phenomenal showings. So Matt Stafford can throw for two to four touchdowns in a game. So it just kind of depends on how they come out and play against a really good Philly team.
I feel like I have picked Jonas to win a couple of times this year, and I just haven't really hit on that yet.
Does he get it done this week?
Nope. Not this week. He about to go to 0-5. Give me Robbie.
Yeah, I think you're going to go to 0-5, Jonas, unfortunately, man. And I so bad want to give you a win because
Me too. I keep picking him.
You don't have a bad team, man. You really don't. Minnesota had a great
Kyle Pitts. That's all you have to do.
That's all you got to do, man. Like, you made the mistake last year. You did it again this year.
And he knew it to not have draft because he got upset as soon as he hit that draft button, and he knew it, and he still did it, and
he still did
the same thing last year. Or I'm sorry, it's doing the same thing this year as it did last year. So, I mean, I don't know. Look on that waiver wire. Maybe you go get Kmet if you're not happy with Pitts, or gosh, go get Johnny Smith.
Yeah. I mean, he's got great receivers: A.J. Brown, Michael Pittman Jr., Adam Thielen. Even though he's not feeling it. As you can see, guys, keep it up, Pittman, you bum. Just replaced him with Swift.
I'm ready for Jonas to get to the point where it's now Jonas, you bum, or something of that nature.
It's just going to get increasingly more aggressive as he loses more games.
No. But, hey, no joke. I am rooting for Jonas. He's one of the more active managers. He's always sending trades out. He's always making moves. This 0-4 is not true to how active he is.
Yeah, and he'll call you out if you make a bogus trade. So you can't just send him any BS hoping that, you're going to try to get something in over his head because he pays attention. He's very active. He's got some great depth. Obviously, DK Metcalf has a bye week. Jordan Addison.
Breece Hall's been another one of those players that has just not really come out yet.
Well, I mean, we're seeing just struggles in general with the New York Jets. So until that turns around full-fledged on both the offensive and the rushing side of things, or I'm sorry, the passing and the rushing side of things, we're not going to see that really change, in my opinion.
But yeah, I kind of like Robbie in this one.
Me too. Sorry, Jonas. I hope you get it this week, though.
I do too. I don't want to keep doing this. I mean, we don't want to make it 330 days.
Oh, that's so savage. Jonas, we were going to have a sign to just hold up like as soon as the podcast started, but yeah, it's hard to see that, so that's why we really didn't do it this time around. Here's a really good matchup. To me, this could potentially be matchup of the week.
Whoa, why is Jalen Warren in there? Who's he missing? Who's on a bye for him this week? Is it Kenneth Walker?
Find out. Yep.
Ooh, Kenneth and Keenan.
Keenan against a really good Parson. He's got his kicker on a bye. He'll definitely find a defense to pick up.
Boy, Parsons missing Mike Evans and Jerome Ford too.
Mm-hmm.
So they're both getting the bye week blues.
Yeah, but hey, Khalil Herbert had a better week than Jerome Ford did this past week. They're playing at Washington. They have a really good front seven, so that could pose as a low scoring total for Khalil. And I haven't really paid much attention to Jalen. I mean, it doesn't seem like Pittsburgh and their offense is really picking up any.
Yeah, and it doesn't help. Kenny Pickett did suffer an injury this past Sunday. I'm not 100% certain if he's going to play Sunday. I think that.
Oh no. And I think our co-host has cut out, and this has happened before, but that's okay. We're going to keep rolling with it until Jeff gets connected back here with us. I think last time it took him a couple of minutes, so until he joins back, I'm just going to do what I do best. I'm going to talk about numbers, and we're going to talk about this matchup a little further, and then hopefully by the time my rambling has finished, Jeff will be back. But let's just continue to look at this matchup. Sloman has a really good team top to bottom, as Jeff just alluded to. Keenan and Kenneth Walker both on a bye. That hurts him a lot. And if I really want to lean Parson in this matchup just because of the people that he's missing, because Debo didn't really get that much work this past week. It was definitely Brandon Ayuk was heavily favored. CMC was getting a ton of work from the 49ers. Jerry Jeudy had a pretty average showing. Josh Jacobs is going to continue to show out. So, you can rely on Josh. You can rely on both of your Joshes, Josh Allen and Josh Jacobs in this case. Michael Thomas had a pretty average showing, but the good thing for them is that they are playing a struggling New England Patriots. The potentially negative thing is that if Michael finds himself matched up with a Christian Gonzalez from New England, that could pose some problems because that boy will lock him down. He has one of the better kickers in the game, so he has a chance, but I'm leaning Parsons in this matchup. He has most of his team this week. He is missing Mike Evans and Jerome Ford, but he has some players that I think will kind of give him the edge. I don't see the problems continuing with Joe. I think between him and Jamar, they'll combine for at least 50 to 60 points this upcoming week. Smitty has looked great this year, and with them playing the LA Rams, this is going to be a pass-heavy game. So expect to see Smitty get 20 to 30 points. This is the one matchup right here that may actually pose some problems for you, Parson. They're playing a really good Buffalo team. I think we saw them go in and get a really solid victory against Miami this past week. Was not really expecting that, but I mean, they showed out, and I think that was a statement win. In my mind, I saw Miami as being kind of a Super Bowl favorite, and that could be completely off base, but to me, that's a really solid win and a statement win for Buffalo. So we could see Travis Etienne come away with a really low point total. Travis Hawkinson, I see him coming back and potentially scoring 20 points. I mean, you're not going to have many weeks where you hold him to single digits. And I believe our co-host has joined back with us. Can you hear us, Jeff?
I think my computer has AIDS.
Well, as I normally do, I kept it rolling, man, and I dove further into the matchup, and I've just kind of been talking about each of the players on this team.
I'm going to have to do some tests on my Mac after this because 2 weeks in a row, that requires some testing. Maybe get some medicine for this sucker so I don't keep leaving, but I am back.
Glad to have you back, man. One thing that I said, a matchup that you may want to look at that could pose some problems for Parsons is Jacksonville playing at Buffalo. Dude, ooh. Buffalo looked really good against Miami, coming away with a 41-20 win?
I think it was 48-20. I think they hung 48 on them.
You're right, 48-20. So in my eyes, I thought that Miami looked like a Super Bowl contender this year, and for the Bills to get a statement win like that just says a lot about the weapons that they have. So we could see Travis coming away with a low point total.
Very possible. That's a stout defense, and it's never easy going to Buffalo and performing well. And Miami was one of the highest performing teams of the season so far, and they really struggled.
Well, Jeff, I've said my piece on this matchup, and I predicted Parson for the win. Is there anything else that you want to cover on this matchup?
It's really hard to go against Sloman. I think he's got one of the more well-built rosters. Same can be said for Parson. There's a reason why they're so close in the standings. Once Sloman plugs in a defense, I think I'm going to give a slight edge to Sloman this week. Look for another close matchup, though.
Yeah. I think a player to watch out for on Sloman's team is Deebo Samuel. He did not have a great showing this past week. And wasn't it because he was held out?
I think they really just wanted to limit his role this past week, especially since they did kind of jump out to an early lead, let Christian McCaffrey, build them to an early double-digit lead for that matter. So in a tougher matchup with Dallas, I look for Deebo to kind of get back into the groove.
Okay. Well, there you have it, folks. That'll wrap up the matchup there. So let's dive into, I think we have two more matchups to cover, Jeff. And then maybe if you want, we can kind of roll into maybe just the NFL matchups for the week 5.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
So let's see what we've got here. Brules and Trey.
Yeah, this is an interesting one.
Pull up that
boy,
bench.
If you're Brules, you're hoping Saquon's back because if you want to roll Edwards-Helaire and Breida back out there, well, it'd just be Edwards-Helaire because he would be able to, slide Saquon back in. If he does that, and if T. Higgins plays, I kind of lean Brules, at least at the early look at this.
What was the injury for T. Higgins this previous week? Do we know?
Something. It's his rib. It's not broken. I don't believe. It's just. See if there's anything. It's a fractured
rib. That sounds serious. Wow. But he's not ruling himself out for week 5.
If he can tolerate pain and soreness. I'm shocked. I figured that he would sit like fractured rib. Boy, that you take a couple hits to that, you're going to be out on the sideline anyway.
Yeah. If that's truly the case, and we're looking at a fractured rib for T. Higgins, I mean, they're making it sound a lot less worse than it is, but that doesn't sound too good to me. He has Tutu Atwell, so you can at least feel good about you do have somebody that is going to see targets.
Yeah, that's true. He could just slide
I would go Puka and then Gabe as my 1-2.
Yeah.
Barkley's back in your lineup. And then who did you say you're rolling with? Clyde Edwards as your RB2 right here?
Yes.
And then Tutu.
He could really use another running back.
Yes, he could.
But, I know he's been without Eckler for the past couple of weeks, and with them having a bye, maybe he gets Eckler back after the bye.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, that would give them enough time to rest up and recover. What I'm assuming is still the ankle sprain he's dealing with.
Yeah.
And then you're looking at Trey's lineup. Diggs had a 3 touchdown performance. Amon-Ra, who is target machine. He's going to get catches. Kyron Williams has been a really great addition to his squad. He's got Tyler Lockett in there, but the Seattle Seahawks are on a bye.
He'll plug in James Conner, I'm sure.
Yeah, that is definitely the move. So you'll see him roll with James Conner in his flex, Goddard at his tight end, and his defense. Philly's playing the LA Rams, which that could be a high-scoring game.
Yeah, it could be. Philly's had some close calls this year so far. They've managed to, keep winning in most of their games. So I say most. They're undefeated, aren't they?
We're talking about Philly? Yeah.
Yeah, Philly's undefeated. Okay, that's what I thought. They had a close call with New England to start the year. That's what I was thinking of. But, after kind of looking at both of these rosters, I think I'm actually going to flip. I'm going to go Trey on this one.
Going to go Trey? I'm actually going to also go Trey this week. There's just too many questions surrounding Burles' roster right now. There's a lot of health issues. Even if Saquon comes back, does he look like normal Saquon? Can the New York Giants get it together? His RB2 situation is not good.
Yeah, I mean, are they even going to be able to block anybody? They certainly didn't Monday night.
No, they didn't. And my Seahawks came away with 10 or 11 sacks, which was great. So, yeah, I think Trey gets it done this week. He's put himself in a position, I think, to win a lot of games this year.
I do, too. I think he'll be ultra competitive throughout the season and especially down the stretch as we get closer to playoffs.
But, I mean, to speak about Burles' team just a little bit more, it's just super surprising. And I know you've got to be frustrated to be in his position with all of these players. But I feel like once Burles gets over like that week 6, week 7 hump, and he has all of his players healthy on the back end of the season, his team could be a problem. His team will be a problem if he's all healthy.
Yeah, if he's fully healthy and he gets into the playoffs, that's one team I do not want to face.
Yeah, I mean, just a reminder to everybody looking at this team, Lamar Jackson, T. Higgins, Gabe Davis, Travis Kelce, Puka Nacua, Saquon, Eckler, Cooper Kupp on IR, and then Tutu Atwell. I mean, he's basically got the Rams receiving core on his team.
Yeah, all he has to do is just manage, find a way, get in the playoffs, and he's got the best shot.
Yeah. Well, I think we're both pretty confident in the pick for that matchup, which brings us to our last matchup of...
Who is that?
It'd be you and I, sir.
Is it really?
Oh, yes.
Oh, gosh, I hate that you
look
have
at
Mahomes.
Us. We're both right there at seventh and 8th rank.
Yeah.
We're playing at Minnesota. Their defense hasn't looked that great. I'm concerned about Jacksonville playing at Buffalo. Ridley could be held to single digits if they come out and play like they're capable of. Even Ayuk playing at Dallas, I'm really concerned with the matchups that my receiver have. Aaron Jones had a lackluster week 4. Does he bounce back? Pacheco looked good for the first time this season. Looked really, really good. Hope he continues to run like he's pissed off. That's just hilarious watching him run. It's like a bull in a china shop.
He hates the grass. I just don't get it.
It's a great way to put it. Like he's pissed off at the ground and he's just...
Yeah. I've never seen it, but I mean, yeah, he was able to break out that 40-plus yard touchdown run, so it works.
Yeah. Hunter Henry has been pretty steady for me this year. I don't think he had a superb week last week, but before that, getting pretty constant contribution from him. And then DJ Moore has put together 2 solid weeks in a row.
I really hate that you've got a Monday night guy.
Yeah, and that it's Aaron Jones, which could be a big impact kind of guy. My bench has really turned sour. Like, I felt good about it, and then just the performances that I've had with these guys over the last couple of weeks has not been great.
I am hopeful that I get Jonathan Taylor back this week. No guarantees.
Yeah.
It's everybody knows how bad that situation is in Indy, but I would love to be able to throw Jonathan Taylor back in my lineup.
Dude, yeah. I mean, you have arguably one of the best receiving cores in the league. Justin Jefferson, Christopher Olave, which he didn't have a great week last week, but he's had a great season thus far.
Yeah, I don't know what happened in that game last week, but him and Carr just couldn't connect. So hopefully that was just one of those, one-off games that they have, and I hope they can correct it this week.
Yeah, do you think that he gets matched up with Christian Gonzalez, though? Does that have an impact?
If Christian Gonzalez plays.
Did he get injured this past game?
He did suffer an injury, and I remember seeing an update about it, and it's where was it? I just had it. Okay, I did see where Matthew Judon is going undergo surgery, so he's going to be out. Oh yeah, this says Patriots first round pick Christian Gonzalez and Matthew Judon are both out indefinitely.
No.
Yep. So not. I hate that for both those guys. I know that they want to be on the field, but at least for Chris Olave, maybe he bounces back this week.
Oh man, you're right. Judon out, Gonzalez. It says doubtful still, but you're saying out indefinitely, like for the season?
Judon's done for the year. Gonzalez has a chance to come back.
Okay, because that would be a shot to the gut.
Yeah, so maybe I'm hoping Justin Jefferson really goes off. I know Kansas City, they're known for their defense at times, but boy, I'd love for that game to turn into a shootout with, then again, I don't need it to because you have Mahomes and Pacheco, so I don't know. I can't win in that one.
Look, we both know that it could go either way in this matchup. You have some really great players. I have some really great players, but with Jonathan Taylor coming back week 1, does he have 20 to 30 carries like David Montgomery did? He could be your impact player.
I'd be pretty surprised. I think they'll kind of slowly work him, kind of back into the rotation. So
I think this could be a problem for you.
Russell, he's been solid this year. It's just they've been, unable to find a lot of wins, but they found one last week. So we'll see. I do feel more comfortable that game's at home rather than in New York.
Yeah, that's true. That pass rush from New York, though, is still just really good with Quinnen Williams up front. C.J. Mosley, given the situation, is still playing, I think, phenomenal.
Right. But yeah, a lot of interesting matchups in our game this week. I do have Deshaun on a bye and Njoku on a bye, but odds are I probably wouldn't have played them this week anyway.
Man, and you still have Deontay Johnson on your IR. When is his expected return, or what's the timetable on Deontay?
It should be next week. I should get him back. He got injured in week 1.
Yeah. So, you still have some really great depth. You've got Hollywood who, when Arizona has their games, somebody like him or James Conner ends up getting a lot of points.
Man, Hollywood, his worst game this year was week 1, and he had 8. Ever since then, he's been double digits.
Yep. Somebody else in that game that we were talking about earlier on the waiver wire is Michael Wilson. That's somebody that that was targeted a lot in that game for the Cardinals offense. But man, I think this is gonna be good. This is gonna be a really close game. If I can get the defense that I'm hoping for, I think that'll put me in a great position to win. after going over the matchups, I know that Sloman's going after a defense, so odds are he just all he has to do is put $5 on the defense that I want. He's golden. But there is at least two matchups. Look, either way, if he goes with option A, honestly, I don't even mind to say it. No, I'm not going to say it because there could be other people on the prowl for this defense.
I would never do that.
Yeah, there's two ways that I can go. I don't believe you.
You can tell me. I'm not going to go get him.
Yeah,
I'm going to go get him.
You're going to go get him. But what do you think, Jeff? We've got to be confident.
It's so tough because I could see this literally going either way.
Yeah. Based on matchup alone, I will lean your way this week because you just have the more favorable matchups in my eyes. Like Ayuk playing against a really good Dallas defense, Ridley playing against a really good Buffalo Bills. Until Aaron Jones can prove some consistency, I'm still super concerned about this. DJ Moore is playing at Washington, and there's some weather concerns apparently. So,
oh man, that's a Thursday night game. You got a guy on Thursday and Monday. I hate this because all my guys are on Sunday.
Is it one of those where you're done? Is there another international game?
Yeah, we both have a player in that. You got Ridley and I got Cook.
They're doing it again. Is this one in London also, or is it another?
I think it's in London. I'm not 100% on that.
We're gonna look.
I can find out
right
quick.
now.
The first one to it wins London.
Damn you. London again. So that's 2 games in London for the Jags.
I wonder if they came home.
They would just stay, right? The whole
That's
time.
what I'm thinking.
Why would they come back?
That's my thing. I would think they just stay over there.
Yeah, like no brainer. Dude, I feel like the Bills are about to go off and score so many points in that game. I could just see that.
As long as it goes to Cook, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, which is again concerning for me. So,
if I'm going to just be 100% like I have been on all these other ones, I kind of lean my way just based on what you said. You got some guys with some tough matchups.
Yeah, and I'd love to be the overconfident guy that's just like, hey, I'm going to get the win this week. But just looking at the matchups, I don't think I'm going to get it done.
If you could do me a favor and scroll over to the right and just click on me to win. I just need that. Yeah, there we go. Don't you? Hey, come back here! No, you didn't. Are you kidding me? Oh.
Well,
you think you're slick.
This is reverse psychology, okay? Like,
yeah. I like it though. That was good. I appreciate that.
All right. Well, we'll have a final look at the standings, and if there's anything else you want to go over before we wrap it up for the night.
No, I think leaving it at the standings would be good, and kind of what we talked about earlier. 9 of the 12 teams in the league are sitting at 2-2, and if you would do me a favor, Cameron, can you scroll up to the Week 5 matchups real quick?
Yep.
How many games? It was 1, 2, 3, 4. No. Okay, so 3 games this week feature a 2-2 on each side. So,
yep,
we're really going to get a shakeup in the standings this week.
And of the 2 3-1 teams, I feel more confident about Kevin getting a win rather than Burleson coming away with a win. He just has, I think, the stronger opponent.
Yep, I agree. I think, we'll see what DJ does at, tight end. We'll see if Najee can get it going. But, yeah, I think Kevin's got a good shot to go 4-1.
Man, I really did not expect to beat him. I feel really good to be sitting here at 2-2.
Yeah.
after a really bad week 3.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think 2 divisions all have teams that are 2-2. I think South and West.
The South and the West. So you've got Parson, DJ, Brules all at 2-2, all at 2-2, and then you've got Skunk, you, and Trey all at 2-2.
All 1-1 in the division.
Look at this one, the East. It's the only one that's really has its levels to it. You've got the superior 3-1, a really good, probably one of the stronger 2-2 teams in the league, and then somebody who is having really bad luck.
Who might that be?
Jonas.
He'll turn it around. He'll find a way.
Just not this week. Shout out, Jonas. We love you, for real.
Oh, gosh. That was... I'm glad you pulled the rug out. I've been doing it a little bit too much, so it was your turn anyway.
Yeah, we had to keep a balance to it. Look, it's all fun here, and we're gonna get some pretty aggressive text messages from Jonas, and that's okay.
He's going to go on our YouTube and comment 15 comments and just lay into us.
I think that he did that because he thought the YouTube stream was live, but it's only live on this particular platform. At some point, I think we'll be able to set it up that way. But
let me see something real quick.
Yeah.
Just because I want to make sure that if he's available, maybe get him in here for just a minute and just kind of catch him up. Because although you can't see it, this says Jonas hasn't won a game in 323 days. I want to spread that message to him and get a live reaction. So
if we can get a live reaction at the end of this episode, it may be one of the best episodes that we've had so far.
I know.
But either way, hey, I feel like we're getting better each week. The content has been consistent. I feel like at this point, if you're somebody that's sticking with our channel, you can expect consistency on. We're going to cover previous matchups. We're going to dig into the next week's matchups, and we're going to talk about just NFL games in particular. We're going to talk about the teams and their records, who's doing really, really bad, who is kind of like that dark horse team, injured players, etc. So we kind of love to cover every aspect of it. We're going to talk weather, some things that maybe people aren't talking about, the international games. So you've got, like I just mentioned, the Jags playing back-to-back weeks in London. That's crazy.
That is. But yeah, it should be another fun week. Lot to determine with these 2-2 teams. We're going to see a lot of, teams that maybe can squeak out, get above 500. We'll see a lot of teams fall under 500. So I'll be interested to see who starts that climb up and who tries to maintain that lead.
Yep. You've got the really quick, we're an hour and 10 minutes into our podcast. Most of them have gone to like that hour and 15-minute mark at the least. So we have another 5 minutes if you want to, Jeff. We can kind of talk about a couple of the matchups this upcoming week.
Yeah, sure.
In the NFL. I'm going to pull it up on here. For those that have watched our channel, we really appreciate you guys. We've enjoyed doing this a lot. We want to get better at this, so if y'all have any feedback, please feel free to leave us some feedback on our Spotify channel or YouTube comment, whatever it might be.
Dude, I'm so excited to do this as the weeks go on and as we get closer to playoffs and during playoffs and just kind of going back and watching this, in the off season. I just can't wait to see how all of it unfolds.
Yeah. How off base were we on our projections, or was there anything we were spot on about? Because all of this will just help us get a little bit better at what we're doing here. But again, sometimes these are just opinions. Like we're not NFL experts. We just love to dig into it.
Yeah, we just like, giving you guys our best guess, and, sometimes it hits, sometimes it doesn't. That's just kind of how it goes for everybody. So we will just do our best to get it right as much as we can based on the information we have.
Yeah. Well, Jeff, looking at that Thursday night matchup, you've got the worst team in the NFL as the record stands, and they're going against a really good Commanders team at home.
Yeah, I'm so tempted to take the Commanders covering, but I'm scared to death because I envision a low-scoring game, and if that's the case, it could be close. But I still kind of lean the Commanders in this one.
I do too, and I would feel confident with that spread, just based off of what I've seen from Chicago. You've got a pretty confident team playing at home. Brian Robinson, their run game has looked really good.
Boy, they have both threw 5 picks through 4 games.
Mm-hmm. And look at the touchdown totals, though. Looks like Sam is kind of struggled through the air as far as getting it into the end zone. He's got 100 more yards exactly through the air.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Look at the carry difference. I mean, they've got that split backfield in Chicago.
Yeah, Robinson has been really good so far this year.
I'm sure Terry's not having the start of the season he had hoped for. It's not terrible, but there are definitely receivers that are having better years.
Yeah, he's
so
averaging just over 50 yards receiving a game, so you know he's wanting to kind of increase that total a little bit.
Yeah, I would see that trend in a more positive direction. What about some of these other matchups? Any other matchup that sticks out to you that you can't wait to see?
So I'll tell you where I'm going to be running to my sports book. Texans are underdogs at Atlanta. I'm going to go take Texans in that one. They've proven to me that they can compete with the best of them. So, Steelers are a solid team, and they, they beat them 20 plus Sunday. So I feel good about the Texans. And then, let's see if there's any other. Boy, Ravens 3.5. If Pickett can't play, I kind of like the Ravens covering in that one too.
Mm-hmm.
What about you? What
Miami.
do you see?
Right now, just from the get-go, I like the Bengals coming out and getting it done this week. I think that we see Joe come out and finally have a solid outing, and we see them put up maybe a double-digit win against the Cardinals.
I could see that.
I think that's a bold prediction because Arizona's playing at home, and they've had some pretty good performances against really good teams. We won't talk about one of them.
What's the next matchup?
Hey, matchup of the season so far, probably. I mean, most people would say that this could be your conference championship potentially.
Yeah. I'll tell you one thing: if Dak can just protect the ball and just be smart, I really like our chances. I really liked our chances last January in that divisional game, but Dak threw 2 costly picks, and it ultimately was the difference. So just be a classic game manager. Just make the throws that are not going to put you in harm's way. Make the easy reads and just let our defense do what it has been doing all year.
Yeah. I mean, I think the one thing that the Cowboys have going for them is that Brock Purdy's still a young quarterback. If Micah can just apply some pressure back there, you can get him rattled pretty easily. You know that they can rely on their running game with McCaffrey, but I mean, the Cowboys have a great defense. So this is going to be a pretty good matchup. Do we know what the over and under is in this game?
Over under. See if it shows when you click on it. I've got it at 45.
45. Would you take the under?
I might. Golly,
defensive matchup.
Yeah, that's tough. I may go under 45. Although that's all you need is what 20, 27, 21, something like that.
24-21.
Yeah, that 24-21 is 45. So I don't know. I'd still kind of lean the under on that, I think.
Yeah, you just have two powerhouse teams right there.
Right.
Let's see what else we've got. And then the Monday night game, Packers at the Raiders. Do we see the Raiders get a win at home? I bet Burleson's hoping for that.
Yeah, I kind of lean Raiders in this, and what I may do, and of course we don't know about the status of Jimmy G yet, but usually concussion protocol doesn't take more than a week, so I may go grab that number while it's, the Raiders have a little bit of, value right here. So, because I know if it comes out that Jimmy G's playing, you're going to see that line shift towards more of a pick, or maybe even Las Vegas favored by 1. So I'm going to go try to grab that value right now.
That is actually a great point. I'm telling you one thing. Let me see what the over-under is in this Chiefs-Vikings game.
I'm not touching another Chiefs game this year.
Which one burned you?
So I don't know if you noticed this, but the Chiefs were an 8.5-point favorite Sunday night in New York.
Oh, so
but
sorry,
also,
guys.
with the stats coming out,
I was like, who let McAfee in here? But I had the Chiefs covering the 8.5. Patrick Mahomes, all he has to do is just run that in, and he slides down at the 1, and they take a knee, and they only win by 3.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I'm done with the Chiefs.
That is tough. The over-under is at 53.
I'll probably still go over in that one.
I would go over all day on that game. And I'd be curious to know what the over and under is on that Houston game, because I feel like there could be a lot of points scored in that matchup.
I'm going to say that one's probably ballparked at 47 or 48.
Or at least a lot of points from Houston's side. I mean, they just looked better from the quarterback position.
Talked about the Houston Texans, how Casario.
What do we got?
41.5. Wow. In Atlanta.
No weather concerns.
You know what? That might be a really good overtake right there.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought that they may see some points in this one. I'm gonna go grab that over, like, as we speak, before that changes.
Because that could change drastically. You could see probably a 4 to 6 point swing.
You could. I think the Lions should cover. Titans and Colts look to be just a pick. I'm probably going to grab Miami to cover that 11 after what we saw from the Giants.
And Miami's playing at home. I mean, do they have another 70-point performance?
Oh, they could. They can
totally
explode at any time.
Yeah, I would feel good about that spread. Well, unless there's any other matchups or players or anything you want to dig into, Jeff, this could probably wrap up our episode number 5. We're actually coming up on the 5-minute mark exactly, so that's perfect timing.
Yeah. Appreciate you hanging in there with me again. I will try to fix my computer. It's just, I don't know why suddenly it just wants to glitch on me in the middle of the show, and then it works from the moment I get back into now. So I just appreciate you holding it down.
Hey, likewise, I don't mind to do that. Things are going to happen, and we handle adversity well on this podcast. Okay,
yeah,
we're going to make adjustments on the fly. That's what it's about. But no, really enjoyed doing this with you, Jeff, and I love going over the matchups. Got a crazy week 5 ahead of us. Ton of people in our league going into the week 2-2. 2 teams 3-1. 1 defeated team who, from our predictions, is probably going to remain that way. Unfortunately, unless a miracle happens. But yeah,
that's what it takes, Jonas. You need a miracle.
Yeah, you may need a miracle, man.
But yeah,
all right.
I think that's going to do it for episode 5. Just appreciate everyone, joining in. Appreciate Robbie and whoever might be Crispy Bacon. Hopefully we'll get you on next time. But yeah, just appreciate you guys giving us your time, and hopefully we gave you guys some good insight.
All right, signing off episode 5. See y'all next week.
See you.